Hey, how's it going, all you lovely people at Shut Door Doors Shutter, coming back to you with a brand new episode of Project Architect 2, and today we have 2,000 millibuckets of antimatter. So we are going to take that, and we're going to take a tube, and we are going to pipe that into here. Let's grab the configurator. And just make sure on the bottom here that we have output. And this should be good. So I'm actually going to cut this off. So that way we don't just waste all of our antimatter. Because the rest of this we're actually going to use for the fading matter, right? So that should be golden. Okay, 2 of those guys. Perfect. So with the antimatter in hand, we now have the antiprotonic nucleosynthesizer. And we are going to go put this in the other dimension. The reason I didn't put this in the other dimension originally is actually because I did feel like it. I felt like putting stuff over here. So let's get this back out. So we're not wasting antimatter. And can I just right-click? Don't want to avoid that, so I think we'll just go over to the other dimension and put it inside the tank. I'm trapped. Okay. Go back over here, and with this, put this in here. That gets rid of all that. So that put it inside the porter. I don't really know if I need the porter anymore. We're probably going to keep this all local. So I may just grab a chemical tank real quick. Just set like right here, and then just do output, and then auto eject, and then auto eject, and then on the bottom here, input, and then we're just going to take this with the gauge dropper, put this in here, and that should be golden. Because we don't need antimatter for anything else that I know of. So we should just be able to grab the machine that I accidentally just throw away. And I think we could actually just put this right here. I don't think there's a problem. And we then grab the archerium, which is 156 billion. So mark, I'm going to say 10. There's an EMC limit of 1 trillion. So that should work. And then at pipes. The one thing I want to do, yes, muffling upgrades is what I was hoping for. This machine is loud, and I don't really want to hear it. So this, there, and the archerium. Boop. And then we just make sure input, and then output, and I probably need a flux point. All right, there is a flux point, and I'm just going to attach this to the mech area power. And that is getting us fading matter, which I'm just going to get an EMC link. How much is that? 10.46 trillion? 1 trillion a piece. So we probably need another Mark 10, or what's Mark 9? So Mark 10. Is that enough? Yes. And I'm just going to pipe this back in. First, I'm going to take a piece of this. And that should be working. Getting us trillions and trillions of EMC, which is exactly what we want. Okay, perfect. Perfect. So the next part would be getting the final shards, which is that 4? Do you have to have 4 to do that? Oh no, you need the fading matter block. That's why, right? Because then this gets dropped in an explosion, and that gets you the final star shard. That is perfect, I think. I think we can just do that. So fading. Let's learn that. Let's grab one of these transmutation tablet and some TNT. Hey, quick interjection here. If you guys are enjoying the video, it'd be greatly appreciated if you leave a like and or subscribe, or even comment. Advice, feedback, questions, I would love to see it all. Alright, let's get back into the video. And the flint and steel is in here. And let's go back over to our base. Let's go blow this up. And I'm going to double check before I actually do this. So, what does it say? You can break this block while sneaking. Break it without specific tools. There's something else like special with this block? So of course I see the creative bin, max storage. I wonder how you craft that. Oop, I did not mean to do that. Okay, so it looks like we're correct in doing it this way. So this magnet off. And then hopefully I don't waste a trillion EMC. I did not. Okay, so then this is not EMCable. So we're going to have to probably automate that. But that gets us at least somewhere. At least somewhere, huh? So we can do this. EMC that back. So that is the Mark 15. Oh, and then the final Mark EMC link, which requires another final star shard. So fading. And transmutation. And another piece of TNT. Ooh, look at that block. That is fancy. Okay. So there's nothing else that I need these for right now, I don't think. There is the Arcane Alchemical Book. The final EMC link. The max storage. Of course, that. The final star. Creative flux. This requires a creative energy cube. No catalyst used. Ooh. And that's not impossible to obtain. Like, right now, that's not impossible. This one requires lithium. Does this just store a whole lot? This is not, like, creative. Yeah, that's... I don't think that's, like, the infinite energy. Am I wrong? No, there it is. So that's the infinite one. This one's not. Okay, it just stores an infinite amount. That's what I was thinking. I was like, there's no way that that's that easy. But Stellarium, final star shard in our Archerion would give us no catalyst used. Which means that anything that we saw in the previous, like, things with the Archerium blocks, let's do Chosen, I think is the mod name. So, like, if we look here for the induction smelter, or not induction, this one, this would make the catalyst not used here. So this would actually be better than what we've been using. So the 773-100, this would never get used. That's basically the point of that. I don't need that right now. So we're just going to do the final EMC link. We're going to EMC that back. That is how... Oh, this isn't actually EMCable. Sneak right click with a different EMC link to replace it. The filter is preserved. So that one's actually not EMCable. I didn't even realize that. But that's still something we needed just to have. You know, we've got that crafted. I don't think there's a point in putting it in my inventory. Oh, there is. Go EMC some water for me. Oh, these things can do fluids? Wait, hold on. Am I just wrong? Hold on. Can all these do fluids? What does that mean? I don't think any of the fluids that I've seen have EMC, do they? So how would you... I'm very confused. Are there any fluids in here that we can actually EMC? But yeah, I don't know of anything that has an EMC value. Unless I'm wrong. I don't know of one. Okay. So what's the next part? So this, of course, is the next. Creative Reclamation Chamber, unlimited what? So that's the catalyst. No RFUs, very fast processing. So that means we just indefinitely... We don't have to worry about power ever again. But this requires lithium, right? This whole thing requires lithium. And lithium comes from that. Liquid lithium. So we actually have to get into thermal evaporation to get anywhere with that. Okay. We probably won't do that. I'm probably wasting quite a bit of time here. So let me work on a couple things and I'll be right back. Alright. Let's fix the mechanism reactors real quick before I forget. I've already done it on those two reactors. That's why I was zooming in there. And we're going to do it here. So we're going to do fluid exporter, fluid interface, logic cable. Right-click on the fluid exporter. I had to remember the name of it again for a second. And we are going to go in here, and we're going to just do a whole bunch of 9s until we get a red X. Backspace until we get a green. Okay. And we're going to go to the next one. We're going to turn on passive interaction, and we are going to back out there. So this should basically require nothing else. This one's actually not set to anything else, so let's set this to 200. And this should be golden. I'm going to actually unshrink here while I land. One of the things over here is this one's actually set up a little bit differently because it's got a whole bunch more outputs. But that is because this one is set to 500 millibuckets a tick. And I'm hoping this should be good. It looks like we are processing all of it as much as we can. Let's look at polonium. We have 452 buckets. Perfect. So that is cruising over here. I definitely want to provide this thing more power sooner or later. I'll probably work on that here in a minute off camera. But yeah, I just wanted to quickly fix that because that is an issue that I didn't address. But yeah, I mean, this is definitely cruising. This is definitely simpler than all the random cables and pipes and all that stuff that I was using earlier. Let's fix another part of the mechanism reactor here. So I want to set this thing to 5,000 plutonium pellet turn off, right? That's exactly what I want to do here. So I've actually removed all of the redstone components here. So we're going to make this just a little bit different. Let's actually grab some stone or something along those lines. Yeah, smooth stone will work. What I want to do is I actually kind of want to run some vanilla redstone here, just so that way we know that this is actually working properly. So the insufficient fuel and the high temperature. Basically, what we want to do is have this turned on, which it is right now, and we want to toggle this redstone torch off. Same thing over here. So if one of these activates for any reason, so we're going to have the channel 0, channel 1, and channel 2, which we could just say solid 1 channel if we really wanted to. But I want to have this just in case so that way I know what we're looking at. So output strong, and output strong. And then here, which I don't need any tick delays or anything. I was just accidentally right-clicking on it for some reason. Had a habit. So that is going to be channel 0. So then this is going to be channel 1 for this one. And actually, apparently, I put this one in the wrong slot. So that needs to go there. So that is inputting. And over here, we just want to do channel 2 input. And we're going to need to run some of these laser connectors, just because we are a distance away. Oop, too far. Okay, let's put this guy right there if we can. And there. And then we just connect across. Okay. We don't really need those blocks there. So this should be more peace of mind, because I didn't have this, and this actually was one of the biggest problems. Because this would turn on, but this is actually only activated by power. The redstone detection, I don't think I was thinking of this correctly, because it definitely does not function like I was thinking. And of course we could change this to inverted. And that would do nothing. The reason this just stopped is because we hit 5,000. So if I change this to 5250, now it's back on. It wasn't because I changed the redstone detection. That was like perfect timing. So this doesn't do what I thought it did. So we're going to change that to work this way. And of course, if we turn this back to 5,000, you'll see the redstone little line is pulled bright, and over here is bright as well. So we know that the channel 2 is what's actually activating the signal and turning the torch off. So that is awesome. So this one doesn't need to be on anymore. I was just kind of putting it higher so that way we have a little bit more time to kind of explain and show that. So I'm actually going to implement that here and also over there. I do apologize for kind of having like a little bit of cleanup towards the end of this episode, but I know I did things a little bit wrong, and I wanted to fix them. Because I actually was editing the video talking about the reactors, and I was like, you know what, there's probably something in here that would be fluid transfer rate. And actually, if I hovered over this and read this, fluid transfer amount, I didn't read that when I hovered over it. I just kind of ignored it. So that is fantastic. We are golden. Let me get this fixed. I figured out a way to also put a safety in place for the polonium setup, the actual fluid polonium. I just actually emptied the barrel, but at 475,000 millibuckets, the comparator will be at level 15, or level 14, kind of above level 14, and it'll actually activate this comparator, because I have a line of 14, and this thing did just turn off the reactor for a second. I applied that a tube back so this way it would fill. But yeah, so if this does get backfilled, we have the ability to turn the entire reactor off before it gets too much and can potentially blow up the reactor with too much waste. So the reason I'm also doing this is because I don't want these guys to cause too many issues. Of course, too much nuclear waste in here is not a good thing, but if we have the ability to turn this off, these guys are still technically able to process at least 25,000 more millibuckets, and that should at least cover us a little bit. We could do more line here if we wanted to. We could get this down to like 13 or 12, so there's more space in here. But overall, this works. It is basically like an inventory checker at this point, just a little bit more complicated. But safety net. Safety net. Not a bad thing. Okay. Also, the entire time I was doing that, we had like 700 something buckets of polonium in here, so I didn't need to worry. I didn't need to hastily waste anything there. But how are we doing up here? So it looks like we are getting antimatter every 5 millibuckets. Of course, should be another fading matter and another ton of EMC. All right. So enough of the safety course with the reactors. I want to look at getting the lithium dust. I think that's what we were talking about a little bit ago. I think we need to go to liquid lithium, which is in the thermal evaporation chamber with brine. And then brine is the gaseous brine, which is from salt, and the chemical oxidizer. Okay. So chemical oxidizer, huh? Let's do 16. We'll just say 16. That sounds good. F3 and G. I think we'll just do it in this chunk. The SPS chamber cannot blow up, so I feel safe doing it over here. We should be golden. Okay, so let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then I'm just going to grab another piece of cobblestone here. Put that right there. And we're just going to put the next set on this row. Okay. And we also probably want to grab upgrades. Let's just grab a handful of speed and energy. We should have enough muffling upgrades to last us a little while. There's only 4 per rather than 8. And then we can just quickly slap these in here. That was a stack per 8, basically. Okay. And then we want an EMC link. Salt. What is actually Salt's EMC? 8? Okay, so we can do like a Mark 5 and just get away with that. The reason I keep doing like Mark 5s, by the way, is because they do have somewhat decent item export, which is 16. If we wanted to go even higher, we could look at that. There's one, EMC Link 10 does it. Let's look at like 7. What is the 7? 64? Let's go for that one. We may as well look at that rather than just some of it. At pipes, go for that. And then salt. I should have some salt in here for mechanism. Okay. Oop, I did not mean to do that. And we'll round robin. So the other thing is we need to make sure these machines are set correctly. So bottom is input, and then gases will say front is output. And we don't need auto eject on gases, but it is on by default. Okay. And then the opposite for this one. So front is output and top is input. Perfect. And then we're just going to do flux points on the bottom here. I'm actually going to push this down into the ground. Okay, mech area power. We'll turn this one on to mech area power. So that should be getting us gaseous brine, which is fantastic. And we're going to want to grab an ultimate chemical tank. Let's actually grab 2. And then we'll do 1 here. And 1 here. And let's go for tubes. Did not mean to grab that many, but we'll just go with it. We will use them sooner or later. Okay, gaseous brine is flowing. Had the perfect amount of cables for this too. That was beautiful. Okay. So then with gaseous brine, we do need to then concentrate it. So that shouldn't be too difficult. And I am going to do the whole porter thing again, where like I did in the other room. Just because that sounds good to me. So GB. And we're going to make sure energy's turned off, items are turned off. Energy was not turned off. And we're going to do input, and we're actually going to do input. And then on this, we're going to do input, output. Same thing here, input, output. And that should give us gaseous brine. And then we are just going to simply put the next module kind of in front of this. So we'll do... I think what we'll do is just this. Similar to how we have it here, but we're just going to grab 4 rotary condensators. So there. Okay. Then more upgrades. Muffle, 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 muffle. Da-da-da, 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 da-da-da. There we go. And then make sure this is set to GB. And then I'm going to set this side with the configurator here. So gases, we just do output. Go to tubes. Output, and then input. And then we just need power. All right, power is provided. And that has gotten us brine. So what we need to also do is we don't have any items coming in. So top is input, front is output. Of course, copy, paste. And then here, no items. Input bottom, output front. Copy, apply. And that should be brine. So then we want to grab some thermal fluid tanks or fluid cells. Let's grab 2 of these bad boys. Let me go enchant these. Let's get the mechanical pipes placed down here. Nothing too complicated. Perfect. And that is brine. And then, of course, we're wanting to grab another porter. And let's make sure that we disable fluids on this one. And then this is VR, just for brine. Not Battle Royale. So input, input. And that should be filling with brine. And then, of course, in the next episode, we are going to deal with the actual use for brine, which is the lithium portion, right? We're going to get the lithium, liquid lithium, and then, of course, liquid lithium then needs to be converted down into lithium, and then from there, that's lithium dust. But yeah, this is functioning, this is cruising, and we are gathering quite a bit of brine. Of course, I don't think this will be quite enough, but the next episode, we are going to get into the thermal evaporation plants. Those aren't too complicated. There's a little bit of finickiness with them, but nothing too crazy. So, thank you guys so much for watching. Stay awesome. And again, we see you in the next one. Bye-bye.